So the question is, if you could only play one bass for the rest of your life, what would it be? And it's a question I've started to kind of enjoy pondering, not because it's a realistic notion that I would ever play one instrument, but the idea of it definitely starts to focus thoughts towards what is it I want. What is it I need? What is it I love about the instruments that I play? In this video, we're going to go through, I think, 8 or 9 of my basses, like take a look at what each of them kind of do to me and bring to the table in terms of their features and what I feel about them. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to wind it up by sort of revealing exactly what it is that I would play if that was the thing, if I really had to play one instrument for the rest of my life. And I'm going to use a phrase which I kind of hate seeing written down because it's always used as a tagline, as clickbait to get you in and to click on something, but you're here already, so I'm going to use it once you're already here. At the end of the video, I will sort of reveal what it is I want in an instrument, what I would play for the rest of my life if I had to, and the choice may well surprise you. It may not be something you think of me as doing if you've been following the channel, if you've been following my music for a while. But before that, we're going to get to all of these instruments. The one sitting closest to me is the F bass. It's a really beautiful instrument. It's unique in a lot of ways, a 32.5-inch scale. This was made for me a few years ago, and it's something I played on the Time Flies album with Vital Information. It's something I played on the road with Bob Reynolds. I believe the Live in Munich album with Bob Reynolds was recorded using this bass. The Live in London album I just put out here in 2024 is using this bass. So it's seen some action. There was a lot of love for it for some years in terms of my own music. And as you can see, I still have it. I don't play it that much anymore, but it's one of those things I have a really tough time getting rid of, even though it literally sits in the closet, in the bag, and rarely comes out to be used. It's kind of sad, and for that reason, I would consider selling it, but there's still something that keeps me attached to it. There's a little wild card element of it that makes me think, no, I definitely want to keep this thing. And it is just a beautiful instrument. It suits my music. You know, and it has kind of integrity in all areas of the instrument. Super solid, low, bitey, and then clear, kind of clear upper register. I'm still, as you can hear, totally comfortable with it. I haven't played this in maybe a year at this point, or at least 8 or 9 months, and I'm still able to get in there and hit all the false harmonics. So something that's going to be a running theme throughout this video is, and the reason I've kept hold of all of these basses is there's something about them that really speaks to me. Do they qualify as the one bass I would play for the rest of my life? Probably not for the most part. This bass falls into that category of keep, but not play only. And we're starting out kind of very unique to my music, very high-end, very boutique-y. Let's go in the completely opposite direction. Let's grab something classic. I'm someone who's known for changing my strings all the time, and here I am picking up an instrument where the strings haven't been changed in probably 15 years, something like that. And it is, you know, it doesn't get more classic than this, I don't think, in the world of bass. Definitely not as comfortable with this one, as you can hear. But it basically has two things that it does. You know, and it does them very well. These old tape wound flats are just beautifully played in. It wouldn't surprise me if I never changed these strings as long as I live. It would, you know, it would take one of them breaking or something, and I've never actually broken a string in my entire career, which is kind of crazy to think about. 30 years, I've never broken a string. So I have a lot of hope that this bass will make it. Without ever having to have the strings changed. And it's a beautiful instrument. It's just an American standard P bass. I've had it for probably, I don't know, probably close to 20 years at this point. This was one from a long time ago. And again, falls in the category of never going to get rid of it for sure. My feeling is you've always got to have a great P bass around. Even better if you can have a couple. That's a real luxury. I recently sold a bunch of instruments last year, so one of my P basses went, but I kept this one. This was by far my favorite out of the ones I had. And just a beautiful instrument. And I'll never get rid of it, but could I play it just this for my own music for the rest of my life? Doubtful, very doubtful, but beautiful instrument. And on we march to something a little more modern, but still in sort of the utility category. Okay, so this is one of those instruments that's a real wild card, and it's maybe one of the best necks I've ever played. It's so random in the way it came together. It's a Henrik Linder signature prototype by Mattison. It's a production model. It's rough around the edges. It's sort of missing the badge on the headstock. The pick guard isn't really, put on so well. It was a real early days prototype. The kind of thing where, if they release a range of this will have been one of the ones before they even get to serial number 000. So just totally, unobtainium in terms of like, there's no way you can go and get this instrument. And that's not the thing that makes it special. I think that's an extra bonus that I have sort of a one of one. But the neck, the playability of the neck was something that made me decide I'd never get rid of it. I'd be really sad if this got lost or stolen. And, if I ever have to play slap, if I ever have to do anything like that, this is the bass that I would go and get. It's significantly lower action than I'm used to, probably set up more for that studio pop slap thing. It just feels super nice. Has a ton of controls. It's a P bass and a jazz bass set of pickups. I could make an entire video dedicated to just going through what this thing can do in terms of the electronics, all the different sounds it can make. Again, like I said, it's a real utility bass. It can be the ultimate studio bass. I think that was kind of the concept behind it with Henrik and with Anders Mattison when they started to work on it. We'll pose the question again: is this the bass for life? Is this the one bass for life? No, of course not. But it's something I'm immensely happy to own. It's something that gets played probably more than the F bass, when I'm doing, recording for other people and doing record days and more kind of studio stuff, utility kind of stuff. This is definitely going to be one of the instruments I take out of the house to go to the studio with me. Another Mattison. This is number 2 of 4 Mattisons that I own. It's definitely set up way different from the Henrik Linder. This has a much higher action. This is way more my thing. And this was, again, another prototype that I was working on with Anders when we were talking about potentially me not playing 5-string anymore. I threw out the idea to him. It was the very first thing I actually said to him: hey, do you think you could do this? Which would be make a really much longer fretboard with way more frets, some much more range on a 4-string, and not have to have the 5th string. That kind of ended up being a little bit of a non-starter in terms of having like 30 frets or something. But we did then start talking about pickup configurations, and this Triple P setup here, which was something I really dug the sound of. And it's something that's set up really like a modern P bass. I have flats on here. I've got the DR Legends. Oh. And one thing I notice as I'm playing through all these basses is the output of each of them is slightly different. Some of them not so slightly. Some of them it's way less subtle and way more pronounced in terms of the output. So there's a little bit of a different feel on all of these instruments. I don't think it's going to make me change my mind, which I already sort of decided upon before I started shooting today. I don't think it's going to change the outcome at the end of the video. I might be surprised. We might get down the line here and find something that I'd completely forgotten about. But this one, electronics need a little bit of work. but it's that modern take on a P bass, and this time with 3 pickups, and you can adjust them. You can have them in different combinations. There's a little toggle switch. So you get 4 main sounds. Super nice bass. This falls in the category of absolutely never getting rid of it as long as I live. It is sort of a piece unique. It's a one of one. It's hand built, not CNC'd. Has a really nice neck. It's a little chunky. It gives me a different feel when I want that P bass thing, and I don't want exactly the Fender thing going on. So again, these are subtle differences in taste between instruments that are incredibly useful to a professional musician. I'm sure many professional musicians watching this will agree, and you're nodding your head like, oh yeah, well, this P bass is a little different from that P bass, and you get a modern one and a vintage one and something that's not made by Fender. You have all of those different options. It is a massive luxury to have all of these options, but they've become more and more essential to what I consider throwing in the car when I'm going out to the studio or I'm flying somewhere to do a record date. I now have some really nice subtle differences between basses. Again, this doesn't fall in that I'd only play this for the rest of my life, but I'll give you a little hint right now. It's not far away from the bass I think I would play for the rest of my life. And maybe by telling you that, you can tell that I don't actually own the bass that I would play for the rest of my life. But we'll get to that towards the end of the video. This is the Mattison Triple P. Let's up the P bass ante here. Sort of natural progression of this is to go to the Double Reverse P. So now we've got 4 P pickups there. Both sets are reverse. And I've been playing this bass a lot recently. Actually, since I got it in January from RKM, it's been featured in a lot of videos on the channel. It's road worn or relict, as you can see here. I think it's a beautiful instrument. It plays so well. It's a lacquered neck, which kind of surprised me. I don't normally gravitate towards that, but I played this at the NAMM show in January here, 2024. Stopped by the RKM booth, and it's the worst place on earth to try an instrument. And the fact that it sung to me and stood out, and I had some sort of immediate attachment to it, was huge. That really spoke volumes. It gave me a lot of optimism for like, hey, I'm going to really hear this when I get home and plug it in and you know, play it through an amp, play it on a gig, play it in real circumstances, and it did not disappoint at all. It really, I think the biggest thing about this instrument for me is that it gives me the option to kind of have a jazz bass and a P bass all in one. You get this, you get that little jazz bass clang, and then you can also get on the front and kind of have that more muted and boxy P bass thing. There are just so many options to it. This has the Sadowski preamp in it, so there are a ton of sonic options with it. Again, it's a bass I could do and actually have done videos on before. If you want to check out the in-depth set of sounds for this, you can go search on the channel for the RKM Double Reverse P. That's this one. It's beautiful. We'll talk a little bit more about RKM before the end of the video because we're working on a 5-string. Actually, why don't we do it right now? We're working on a 5-string sort of extension of this, shall we say. Taking some of the things I loved about the 4-string Double Reverse P, make it into a 5-string. We're going to try a different preamp. We're going to work on pickups, tuners, look, finish, and it's going to be E to C tuning, so it sort of suits my own solo music, my own melodic chordal playing, that kind of thing. That was the concept behind it. We're going to do a very limited run, just a few pieces. It's not really a signature instrument. It's just sort of a collaboration, maybe a designed by, at least I helped. I had some input into it, and I get the feeling that it is actually going to be a bass I play quite regularly. I'm very fortunate to be taking a trip down to RKM in Mexico in a few weeks' time to check out the first prototypes, and hopefully, if it all goes well, we'll be launching them at the NAMM show January 2025. So stay tuned for that. Something that's quite exciting, something I've never really done in this way. You know, I've talked a lot recently about not wanting signature instruments anymore, not to be tied to a single company and to be locked down into playing one thing. So this is a great way to experiment, find interesting instruments, find things that inspire me to play music. That's always the ultimate goal, and have a really nice relationship with a company like RKM. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully a 5-string version of this, plus some more features coming very soon. And this, again, like the Mattison Triple P, gets a little closer to the bass that I would play for the rest of my life if I had to. Let's go. Super weird, super wild card. This is the Guya Panther 2. It's an Italian-made bass from the 60s, early to mid-60s, I believe. It really is a bit of a weird one. It's got buttons for pickup selector and tone control. It took me a really long time to find one. I was introduced to it by Juan Alderete, who was borrowing Josh Klinghoffer's one at the time. Josh Klinghoffer used to play in the Chili Peppers. And I played it a few times at one studio, also with Jonathan Hischke. I think maybe he had one as well. And I was like, I gotta have one of these things. I was getting way into short and shorter scale basses at the time. And as you can hear, it needs some love, it needs some attention, it needs some maintenance. The electronics have not been worked on in a very long time. I've had this for probably 10 years at this point. But it feels so good around the whole neck. It's old, it's lacquered, it's a little bit sticky in places. It definitely needs some work, but it is everything you might expect from a bass as weird as this and a bass as old as this. And it's something I've randomly played on records from time to time. I know the Peter Erskine Dr. Album from about 9 years ago. I played it on a bunch of tracks of that. Played it on a couple of weird things of my own. And it's the sort of wild card bass that I take to the studio if I'm going on a record date, just in case it needs something weird and pokey and funky in the middle of a mix. And again, it needs some work on the electronic. It's something I really have to cross my fingers and really hope that it doesn't go all in the middle of a take, because as you can hear right there, it's not great. It definitely probably just needs cleaning more than anything, but fundamentally it sits in a mix really well. And they're impossible to find. I think it took me 3 years after I first played Josh Klinghoffer's one. It took me 3 years to find this one, and I've had this for about 10 years. I almost considered selling it at some point because it wasn't getting a lot of love, wasn't getting a lot of playing. I'm so glad I didn't, so glad I kept hold of this, and now it sits out on the rack in my studio, and I do actually pick it up and play it from time to time. Now, I hope you're noticing a trend here. The 5 out of the however many basses, 8 or 9 basses I'm going to show you in this video today have been 4 strings. That's something that kind of often gets overlooked when people think about me, think about my music. I'm so known for playing a 5 string with a high C, the melodic playing the chords. We're going to get into kind of the 5 string world here, even a 6 string in a second. But part of the reason I was selling a bunch of basses over the last 18 months was that I kind of had copies, doubles, things that weren't getting used because they were so close to something I was using way more. This bass, this Mayones, definitely falls into that category. Really nice bass. Actually got it kind of sounding like a bit of a P bass there, even though it's really a sort of 5-string jazz. This is their Jabba model, and I have it set up E to C, so it fills a position in the collection that it's a little bit wider string spacing. It could be that 5-string R&B pop kind of compressed sound thing, maybe some slab, maybe it fills that lane. But I'm not sure. I don't do enough of that to really warrant having a bass that does that. This one is actually on my website for sale right now. So if you're watching this and you dig the bass, it's so even and so clean. I think I've had it for probably 10 years. I've played it on a bunch of records. I've made a bunch of videos on my channel with it. It is a beautiful instrument. And who knows, maybe I'll take it down, maybe I'll never sell it. Right now it is up for sale because it fits in that category of amazing bass, but I kind of have other things that are close to it and I need the space. I'm trying to sort of declutter my life at the same time, especially with other instruments coming in the very near future. So that's the Mayones. I actually like the way the E string feels on this scale length when I have a bass like this set up E to C. and it has a pretty strong output as well. Like I was saying, some of them are a little stronger than others. Yeah, something I'm still comfortable with. Obviously, I've had it a decade. I can find all the false harmonics, even with this scale length I'm not necessarily used to that often, by playing that often. Still really comfortable with it. Beautiful instrument. Bolt on. Everything you would kind of want from an active jazz bass. And kind of a nice Buckeye bowl top. Like maybe that's the only Buckeye bowl I have left in the collection now. Maybe that alone is a reason to keep it. So if you were going to play one bass for the rest of your life, and you're someone like me who plays melodic music, chordal music, plays fundamental bass stuff, does studio gigs, really does a lot of different stuff, maybe you would think to yourself, well, why not just get one 6-string and be done? You know, have an instrument that sort of covers every single aspect of a career and just be done with it. Well, I've never been a huge fan of the 6-string, and this is probably the closest I've ever got to being comfortable on an instrument with this many strings. It's a really special instrument to both me and my wife, as you can see. It's got this little C and J inlay on the 12th fret, Chelsea and Janek. It was a wedding gift from Anders Mattison. He brought it out to our wedding 5 years ago, and it was just an amazing surprise to see this beautiful, is that spalted maple? I'm not sure what the woods are actually, but just this unbelievable piece of engineering and artistry, and to be our sort of joint 6-string bass. You know, my wife plays 6-string a bunch, or at least has done in her career. This bass doesn't fall into the, you know, I'll only play it, you know, for the rest of my career, but it falls into a very special category sentimentally, aside from being an amazing instrument. And it actually has a really kind of aggressive output as well. Oh, that's a little hotter than some of the other basses, but and I'm even still not used to really that low B so much. But I do like the concept of a low B with a 0 fret, for instance, instead of having a nut. So there are things I love about this instrument. I've actually played it on a couple of things, sideman things, sort of behind the scenes. Nothing that's really that public and out there that I've talked about, but beautifully balanced instrument. It doesn't neck dive. You know, I like to sit and have my left knee raised, and this is like perfect playing position, very close to like classical guitar design, but with electric bass. So, you know, sadly, I wish I could say, oh, it would be the perfect storm. Just this is the wedding bass. This is what connects me to my wife. This could be the instrument I just played for the rest of my life. I'd love to be able to say that. Sadly, it isn't that. And because of the sentimental value, it probably won't be something that really leaves the house or gets gigged by either me or Chelsea. I don't think I've taken it to a gig in all this time of owning it. So let's see. Maybe it'll be something that gets played on a special recording. But besides that, it's not the instrument that wins for the rest of all time and the rest of infinity in terms of my career. And even this bass, the 5-string, I've been playing so much for 6 or 7 years now since I got it. It's still officially just a prototype. There are people out there that have the official Janek Gwizdala signature version of this. I think anyone who has it has a passive tone control, and I still don't have that on this version. So it really is prototype in the true sense of the word, but it was just one of those moments that just completely spoke to me instantly, and something that I don't think could really be replicated even by Anders. There would be subtle differences between this and an exact copy. So this is the one I play the most. This is the one I'm probably most known for. It's that classic Anders Mattison design. Everything is everything you imagine from a Mattison bass. And ironically, it's still not the one. We're now going to get to that. Let's talk about what the criteria for, you know, the one instrument that I could possibly play for the rest of my life is. And it's something that was very unexpected. It's something that took me completely by surprise. I was in Minneapolis at Ian Martin Allison's house doing a couple of videos, and we did episode of my podcast, super fun. Then the next day I came back to his place and we did this blindfold video. I spent an hour with a blindfold on of him just handing me basses one after the other, like, hey, what's this? I'm trying to guess them by playing them. And I don't actually know, as you can see in the video, I don't know so much about the wider history of the electric bass. This one that shocked me the most was something that I'd never played before, I'd never even heard of, didn't know it existed. It's the Fender Coronado. Oh, that neck, I know it isn't, but that neck feels like this is a huge body. It's like a 335. Oh, is this a Gibson? Is this a Gibson?
It is not.
No, that's not a Gibson. Oh, no, the headstock is all wrong for a Gibson. Oh, it feels like a Fender headstock. Or, it's got F-holes, I'm guessing. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
And it's got like that 335 guitar-shaped body and that bridge, pair of really raised pickups. Oh, what is this?
I liked how you sounded on that just now. For bonus points, Janek,
Yeah.
Can you guess the strings that are on this bass?
I mean, they're flats of some kind. What have I just pressed? I was trying. Hang on. I'm going to feel out the pedal board.
Yeah, feel
Holy
the pedal
cow.
board.
Oh, wow. That's such a different orientation. Oh, feels so good. See, this is the kind of thing I wish I wasn't wearing the frickin' blindfold, because I'd love to find the looper. Just tell me if there's a light flashing here or not.
I got you.
Is it empty?
It is empty.
Great. Okay,
Yes.
so let me orientate my foot. Okay.
Got it.
First blindfolded loop ever. Where's that loop? Oh, it feels so nice under the fingers.
I love how you sound on this bass.
Okay, now let's see if we can find. Oh, what's in here? No. This video is going to be 100 minutes long because I freaking love the sound of somebody. Oh, is that on now?
That is red light. Yes.
Oh, I've really messed some things up on the pedal. Ah, I came so close. Is it a guild? No.
You said, okay, so hey.
Did I call it and
you
it?
did call it because you felt the headstock and you called it.
So it's a Fender.
Yes.
It is a
Now-
Fender.
Now, do you know what this could be?
No, I just noticed a Fender for the headstock, and it's something in the lines of like, I felt like almost like some kind of Gibson before.
Right.
Not the grabber, but something like that I'd played before. But no, so what is it?
So this is a 1967 Fender Coronado.
Oh
I
man,
feel like you should see it.
dude.
I feel like you should take the
Right now?
blindfold off.
Oh wow, we're
Yeah,
gonna break the.
I think so.
Oh wow. Whoa. Man, I just sold so many basses, and this video is totally gonna screw me. I would play this all the time in a hobby. What a beautiful instrument. And a little like pickup selector
so
thing.
On the neck pickup, I guess.
Great. But immediately the feel was just like, I mean, music. I got to music right away. You know what I mean? That's always the goal. And that has become the most recent moment in my life, in my career, in terms of bass playing, that I had that much of a connection with an instrument. I only got to play it for a few minutes. What you see in the video is the total amount of time in my 45 years of being alive that I have played a Fender Coronado, and that would probably be my pick for the instrument that I played for the rest of my life. If I really had to, you put a gun to my head and say, pick one, and that's it. It would probably be the Fender Coronado. It might actually have to be that Fender Coronado of Ian's, that's Ian, so that's not going to happen. So actually what we're doing with Mattison, with Anders, is we're talking about and starting to work on designs and ideas for something designed by Mattison that has more of the concept of that 335 body shape with F-holes, fully chambered, maybe a 4-string, maybe a 5-string, we're not sure yet. I think the 5-string version of some sort of Fender Coronado remake would probably check all the boxes of what I'm looking for, especially if I can still get the sort of bitey, I mean, it's a big ask, but to get that bitey tone out of it. Let's see, we are in the early stages of working on that instrument. We're hoping to have some sort of prototype by the beginning of next year. Something that makes me incredibly excited. Hope you don't think this video was a massive commercial leading up to that, because it's not even something I think we're gonna make really that available to the public. It might end up just being a one of one. And as of right now, it's just an experiment. It's fueled by the question that started this video. What would be the one bass, if you had to choose, that you would play for the rest of your career? And not being able to have Ian Martin Allison's Fender Coronado, and actually wanting a little more range in terms of the 5 strings and a few extra frets, the next best thing to that seems to be to work on a design with Anders Mattison, see if we can't come up with a modern version of that, something that's actually maybe a little bit more robust, easier to tour, dimensionally fits in a flight case a little bit better, just trimming off the things that aren't from the 60s, updating the concept behind it all, and potentially turning it into something that I can use and play a really wide range of music on. Of course, I want you to get in the comments. I want to know what your favorite bass is, what you would potentially choose to play for the rest of your life. And maybe one of your comments will inspire a future video, just like some YouTube comments inspired this one. Really appreciate you spending some of your insanely precious time with me, talking about music, looking at a bunch of different basses, and I'll see you all on the next one.